What originally interested me in the story of Over the Ropes was the idea of writing an underdog wrestling story. That was what Mad Cave asked me to do. I've always loved wrestling, and I thought it was the perfect genre for me to really dive into. When the story really started clicking for me was when I decided that wrestling is a story about families. In a lot of ways, wrestling is a small business. Families, generational stars often run through wrestling. So when I decided to make it about families, it really started clicking for me. The way that I approached the story first was deciding what time period is it going to take place in. I originally thought about the 70s because I wanted a regional feel for the story. I wanted it to take place in the South, where I'm from. And I thought about the 70s because that was a time of what was called the territories in wrestling, where it was very regional based, and wrestlers would go from place to place, on tour, running the circuits in certain territories. Certain promotions had certain boundaries, and the National Wrestling Alliance stuck to their territories and would share a champion traveling around. But I realized that maybe the 70s was a little too far back, and a lot of people associate wrestling with the 90s, such as myself. So once I decided it was going to take place in the 90s, a lot more came together. The advent of cable TV changed wrestling a lot in the 90s. So I decided to place the story in 1992 to be just on the cusp of cable TV, completely changing the business and putting the last territories basically out of business unless they were able to adapt to the new model. I'd say the biggest influences on Over the Ropes just come from the days of watching wrestling for me on TBS and the Superstation, as well as the WWF and the new generation with the colorful characters. Guys like Demolition, the Road Warriors, Sting, and the Ultimate Warrior. Masked wrestlers like Rey Mysterio, the Cruiserweights, Lucha Libre. Those were the high-flying, larger-than-life characters that I thought would really make an easy transition into comic books. And the best thing about wrestling comics? You don't have to worry about injuries. I'd say my favorite part of the comics process is there's two parts for me. There's the script writing. And when you write the script, it's like the door is closed. You're writing the story as you as the writer see it. When you hand it to an editor, you open the door a crack, and one person takes a look at it and contributes to it. And then the door opens a little further when the artist, the colorist, and the letterist all get involved. So I think the best part is as the process goes and you see it take shape, you get to see the steps come together from the time that you first put the first page down to the time that you get the final copy. And it's a really great feeling. A lot like winning a world title. When the book launches, I'm just most excited to see if the target audience enjoys it and how they react to it. I wrote it mostly for teens to adults, really. Young adults, 18 to 35, who grew up in the 90s, maybe trading wrestling tapes on VHS. But I think teenagers who like wrestling now would also enjoy it. The content is certainly for them. And I'm looking forward to seeing if it brings nostalgia to some, or if it just makes others feel like, wow, those were the olden days back in 1992.